I just wanted to ask you about your understanding of Israel's pronatal culture. What lessons are there for other developed countries?
Yeah, I mean that obviously there's been terrible tragedy in their history that is part of that, and also the current pressures, you know. So, we don't want to replicate that obviously
Surround
that.
ourselves with hostile countries.
Yeah, no, no. So, or the terrible tragedy of the Holocaust and so forth. So I understand that there is a unique situation there. So no question about that. However, um, it does show that just having an intense belief in the value of children is itself an incredibly important pronatal factor, and that can, valuing children deeply is something that should translate to other countries. And a great example um, that I tweeted about, I put a tweet thread about it, and that tweet thread was extremely popular, got 15 million views, so that's going hyper viral. But it was about Mongolia and uh, the fact that Mongolia they have this prize where they uh, celebrate mothers of many children. So if a mother who has four children gets the Order of Maternal Glory second class, and if a mother has six children, she gets the Order of Maternal Glory first class. They go to the presidential palace, meet with the president. It's a regal celebration, and this so Mongolia makes a huge effort, and even the embassies in other countries, go through the effort to track down, uh, mothers in other countries who are of Mongolian descent who have at least four children and give them the prize. So they work really hard to celebrate motherhood and to be pronatal, and the fertility in Mongolia went from below replacement to about three or above. So it is so there is a strong lesson there that you can go get right to the point and celebrate having children and celebrate motherhood very intensely and very hard, and try build a culture that values that tremendously, and that can go a long way to overcoming a lot of difficulties, because Israel has a lot of things working against it. I mean, they have high rates of education, which is negatively correlated with fertility. They're very expensive and dense, which is negatively correlated with fertility. They are very technological, which is negatively correlated, of course. But they also they have you know three things working in their favor. They have strong religiosity, and culture. They have a strong marriage culture, but very directly they have very intense pronatal beliefs. They believe in the value of children very strongly, and even among gay and lesbian couples in Israel, they're much more likely to have children than in other places, because within this you know pronatal culture, Israel uh, will be welcoming of families, however they come, and I think that is tremendously important to have this. So I think there is a lot to be learned from Israel in that sense.
Yeah, the Mongolian example is also extremely interesting. I wasn't familiar with that, although I do think I saw your thread at one point. So is it the understanding of the people who've analyzed that situation, including yourself, that policies like the awarding of medals to mothers that have a large number of children directly contributed to the boost in the birth rate?
I mean, yeah, one thing that is very uh, people who study fertility need to understand that there will never be a perfect study. You know,
Of
you
course.
can't you can't you can't take, you know, 100 people and assign them to live in urban high rise, and 100 other people to assign them to. You can't run experiments with people's lives like that. And every country is different, but it sure um, it sure seems uh, and you don't and it's not a very complicated story. It's a very that's something, if you have a very simple causal mechanism that you can see with your own eyes. I mean, they celebrate uh, having children, and then you know work really hard to uphold mothers of many, and lo and behold. And another way to see this um, is you can look at birth order. That's one way to see causality. There's another country that did this very hardcore, which is Kazakhstan, and they have seen their fertility and their birth rates absolutely booming. I think um, the fertility as Kazakhstan got richer, um, fertility actually went up, which runs counter to most national examples. But one thing that they were doing at the same time was that, just very much like Mongolia, Kazakhstan was giving awards and going hardcore into celebrating mothers that had many children. And um, what was found was if you look at the birth order, the rates of large families in particular went up. Uh, in the Soviet era, or the era after communism fell, I should say, in particular in Kazakhstan, higher order births, the third birth, the fourth birth, the fifth birth, those were exceedingly rare within families. Not exceedingly, they were relatively uncommon. They became dramatically more common. People were having, much larger families, three, four, five, six children. Uh, all of those birth parities, shot upward, as Kazakhstan was really celebrating and uplifting an intentional set of pronatal values. So that is pretty, strong evidence the fact that it wasn't, you know, people that were single suddenly all starting to get married. It
Mm.
was people who were already coupled, having larger families. And that in my view is actually the easier way to get to a higher national fertility rate, is to celebrate uh, pronatalism and encourage people, because I think it's actually much harder for people to get to the stage of having any children. You need to complete your education. You need to get a job. You need to get a partner that likes you,
And also,
that wants to have, you know.
if you boost fertility among the people with a predisposition to higher fertility already, you in the next generation you're going to have more genes predisposing people to higher fertility.
Yeah, the genetic thing I think is less than the culture, at
No,
least
I think you're
on
right.
on the scales that we can work with. We can see, and again, the Jewish or Israeli example is very relevant here, because we've got the example of uh, secular uh, Jewish people outside of Israel uh, having a TFR in the United States, for example, maybe in the UK also, of around 1.0, whereas Orthodox Jewish people, especially in Israel, can have a fertility rate of, six children per woman or something like that. So this is uh, maybe a six-fold difference, and I think genetically
Yeah,
is
no,
pretty
I
very
think you're
similar.
right that the culture is much more important on the sort of timescales that are relevant. But of course, people do also, to some extent, inherit the cultural beliefs of their parents and their families. So
Yeah,
it's
so
boosting fertility
yeah, we're
among
coming full circle. I do agree with you that culture is incredibly important, and that that can overcome a lot.